Let's play a short game today called What Am I Reviewing? Is it a Jeep or is it a G-Wagon? Well, it's none of those. Instead, it's a bike, but not like bicycle, instead B-A-I-C. As we can see, this vehicle looks a lot like other vehicles. So the question needs to be asked, is it a cheap Chinese knockoff or is it the real deal? Let's find out. Well, let's start off by talking about the looks. Now, they say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I'm sure we can all agree that the guys at Jeep must be very flattered by how this car looks. As we can see, the overall design looks very much like a Jeep Wrangler. We see a mix of materials used here. For instance, we've got chrome, more chrome, and then we've got silver and black cladding. But overall, the vehicle is a good-looking car. People aren't going to say you drive an ugly vehicle. Instead, they're going to say that you drive something that looks a lot like a Jeep. Now, before we jump into the inside of the car, I want to demonstrate a little niggle that I have with this vehicle. So you see here, you normally have struts, but instead you have got these material straps in the vehicle. Now that's all good and well, especially for a vehicle that's meant to be utilitarian. But the problem with that is that happens. Baic has got partnerships with the likes of Mercedes-Benz and Hyundai. And when you jump into the inside of this cabin, you can automatically see Mercedes-Benz elements. For instance, the start-stop button, that's straight from Merc. The steering wheel was an old-school Merc steering wheel. The screen looks familiar, and a few buttons and air vents here and there that look familiar. Even the stitching is a little bit G-Wagon-y. And overall, I'm not going to lie, this cabin actually looks very nice. But it's when you start scratching beneath the surface and you start touching things, that's when you start getting a little bit disappointed because the materials used could be better. In terms of tech, I do have quite a nice digital instrument cluster, and up front here we've also got a touchscreen infotainment system which also works very nicely, but it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I must say that the on-road performance of this vehicle has got many Jeep-like characteristics. Any person who's driven a Jeep Wrangler will tell you that it feels quite old school in the way it feels on the road. And a lot of that has got to do with the fact that it uses a ladder frame chassis. But what that also means is that it's generally quite good for going off-road. Baic is an interesting brand because even though they're not known for their off-roading prowess, they recently participated in the Dakar Rally, so they do have some sort of experience when it comes to setting up a car for going off-road. This specific model is a four-wheel drive vehicle. You do have the option of being in 2 high as we are right now, driving normal day-to-day, and then you've also got a 4 high option and a 4 low option as well. And this car does do a decent job of going off-road. In terms of overall comfort, I am quite happy with how this vehicle responds on the road. When you're driving on a nice even surface like this car is quite comfortable, and the seats are very nice as well. But when you do hit some bumps, you do feel the judders and the shakes, so it can get a little bit unnerving at higher speeds when you hit a bump and the vehicle gets a little bit unsettled. You've got a 2-litre diesel and a 2-litre turbo petrol. We are currently sitting in the 2-litre turbo petrol, and I've got 160 kilowatts on tap and 320 Newton meters. This vehicle is mated to a 6-speed automatic gearbox, but the talk is when the update of this car comes out, it's going to have an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and I think that's going to make it even better. As we know, the likes of a Jeep Wrangler will cost you anything from 800,000 Rand upwards to close to R1 million. So those vehicles have now become quite expensive. At the same time, this vehicle isn't extremely cheap as well. It starts off at approximately 550,000 Rand, and for the current model that we're in, the B40 Plus City Hunter, you're going to look at just over 600,000 Rand for this vehicle.